In your 30s, you were addicted to drugs, living on the streets of Skid Row in arguably one of the most dangerous homeless districts in the U.S.
I think most dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe Philadelphia, but Skid Row in LA that's the last house on the block.
Yeah. And years later, you're a successful entrepreneur. You're in the best shape of your life. You have a multi-million-dollar empire. What I think is most inspiring is you did it without selling a course for $997 on how to become successful. Even though you're the perfect avatar for that. Just so you know. In case Sunlife Organics doesn't work out,
pan out, yeah.
You can always.
I have people constantly hit me up and say, will you mentor me? Can I hire you as my coach or whatever? And it makes me sad. And I'm not. Listen, I'm a huge believer in coaches in terms of like Kelly Matthews is my coach. She's my trainer.
I met her.
You met her.
Trained me.
Yeah.
Remember when she trained me and I almost fainted?
Yes. Yes, you almost threw up too.
He remembers. Yeah.
But like Kelly Matthews, like she's perfect. Talk about the perfect avatar for a trainer. I mean, she's physically perfect. She's mentally tougher than shit. She was a Division I or Division II athlete. I don't even know what that means, but I know that she was an athlete. And as an example, I remember one day she was having me do like reverse lunges with a barbell. I was like, I think barbell reverse lunges, and it was really heavy. And I remember putting it back up on the rack, and I remember being really dizzy. And I was like, I feel, and she goes, like a pussy, do the other side. And like, I don't know many people on the planet that could get away with saying that to me. And I literally just tucked my tail between my legs and I did the other side. And then I set it down and then I fell on the ground. And I believe in coaches for stuff like that. And I do believe in mentors because I had many mentors.
Same.
The challenge is, and it's an epidemic here in Austin, is I moved here 3.5 years ago. I was meeting kids that were like living in their van and charging people a lot of money to be their life coach. I'm like, you're 24. How are you gonna? And I'm not belittling somebody who's 24 or 34 or even 44. I'm 54, but I didn't know anything. I knew nothing. Now, the difference between being 24 years old and being 54 years old is when I was 24 years old, I thought I knew everything. I was 1,000% convinced that I knew everything. If you were in better shape than me, you were on steroids. If you were better looking than me, you were gay. If you had a really hot girlfriend, you were a manipulator. Like I had the whole world figured out when I was 24 years old. At 54 years old, I know definitively that I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
So no courses coming up from you.
No,
so all the people reaching out.
I don't even like giving advice on my Instagram stories, but I do it regularly because I have several thousand people that follow along that continuously tell me, please don't stop. It really, really helps me. And my shit's simple. You don't need to pay me any money to teach you what I learned the hard way.
And I think you do have credibility to talk about what you went through because, you turned your life around like crazy. And I think there's so many people in the same spot who don't make it, who are hooked on drugs, they're homeless. What do you think is the difference between... What did you do differently? Like, why were you able to do that? What's missing for them, or what makes the difference?
I got into so much pain and I became so desperate that I was willing to ask for help and I was willing to change. I think I'm not tough and I'm not strong and I wasn't built for the streets. I don't like being dirty. I don't like being in poor health and smelling bad. I wasn't built for that. I'm too shallow. I'm too pretentious. I'm not strong enough. I would get into situations and I would run rather than fight, right? But there's only so many times when you get to run. I'm really fast at running. But there's only so many times where sooner or later someone's going to run faster and someone's going to catch you and someone's going to kill you. So I just wasn't built for the streets, and I was fucking terrified, and I had a lot of guilt and shame. I was hungry. I didn't like being overly hot. I didn't like being cold. I'm a pussy. I wasn't built for the streets.
I was going to say,
I'm a pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I lasted a few years, and I was just like, fuck this. I can't do this anymore. I loved the drugs. I loved the drugs, and I loved anesthetizing myself. But if it were today, if people would have given me a tent and cases of bottled water and money and clean needles and clean, brand new crack pipes, I'd probably still be out there. Today, the name of the game is all of this virtue signaling by enabling these people. I mean, when we first moved to Austin, and I was living in the Line Hotel, and my window looked out over the river that they call a lake here, and there were tents up and down the street. And every morning you'd see people driving up and literally handing them cases of water, food, blankets, tents, money, clean needles, brand new crack pipes. And I was just like, what the fuck are they doing? And Taylor is like, my girlfriend, she's like, why are you getting so upset? I'm like, I'm getting so upset because if you allow this, then you're enabling them. You might as well put a fucking gun in their hand. Like, the reason that I'm sitting in front of you today, as you say, not me, but, massively successful and rich and, all that shit that like people love to hear about, is because when I peed outside, I got arrested. When I was peddling drugs, I got arrested. When I was sleeping on the sidewalk, I got arrested. Like, that shit wasn't allowed. I was held accountable, and they kept throwing my ass in jail. And I definitely am not built for jail. I don't know if you ever ended up reading my book, but I go very much into detail about my experience inside LA County Jail. And LA County Jail is worse than most prisons in this country anyway. I mean, LA County Jail is a fucking hellhole. And it's terrifying. And I didn't want to go to jail anymore because I was held accountable, because there were consequences to my actions, because I wasn't being enabled, because people that I was friends with or cared about me finally stopped enabling me. And finally, I mean, my own mother literally said, like, do not ever call me again, and hung up the phone. And I knew she meant it. I knew she meant it. I could hear it in her voice. And because of all that, I was able to escape that fucking horrible existence. So it wasn't like I don't have some special skills or talents, or people all the time will DM me and like, oh, I wish I was strong like you. I'm not fucking strong. I'm not like, oh, I wish I had willpower like you. Like, put a bag of fucking masa chips in front of me and open it up and tell me if I have willpower or if I'm strong. I will bury this fucking thing. I brought you these because these are my favorite chips in the world.
Awesome.
Do you know these chips?
No, but I love the products that you have at Sunlife.
Awesome.
I don't know. I just feel like when I go in there, I become more spiritual.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
As weird as it sounds, it's just like, and it makes me want to. It makes me want to be more spiritual. It sounds so weird.
It doesn't to me. And I would never talk about this stuff. I literally would never talk about this for fear of ridicule or somebody coming in and putting me in a fucking straitjacket and putting me into a padded room. But I pay a service tens of thousands of dollars a year to pump the frequency of enlightenment into the stores. They have our addresses of each location. They charge us thousands of dollars per location. So you would imagine with 15 locations, you're in the tens of thousands of dollars. And when I try explaining it to people, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Or like,
okay,
what is wrong with you?
So, can you pull in the mic a bit closer?
Sure, of course.
Before I ask you this question.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Here's the worst part, or the best part, depending on how you're looking at it. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just know that I heard someone speaking about this energy that they were able to create in these Tesla-like machines they have a few of them around the country, and that they were able to pump that energy. If you give them an address, it's precise. They can pump that energy directly into the address that you send them. And I was so fascinated, and I called my friend, Luke Story. You know Luke Story?
I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, come on, dude, what is the deal? Is this shit real? He goes, bro, you're not going to believe it. He goes, I don't want to explain it. I don't even know how to explain it. He goes, but just try it and see what happens.
Go to Sunlife and see if you feel the tingles. Because that may be...
And it's not... Leon, it's not...
the tingles?
Yeah, it's not just you. I'm telling you, because I have it at my house as well. My housekeeper on multiple occasions said, why every time I come here do I feel different? Why? My daughter even says, like, she always loves coming and helping me clean because she always feels so good in your house. And I'm just like, there's no way I'm telling this lady that I'm paying thousands of dollars a month to like pump the frequency of enlightenment into my fucking home. But that's one thing. Then if you pay attention before they hand you your smoothie or your bowl, they're going to put your smoothie in your bowl underneath something called a Lilac quantum energy charger. And they are also thousands of dollars, gold plated, made in Germany, by the way.
I like it.
Yes. Made in Germany. They custom make these for us.
This one was in there too.
Yeah.
Okay,
they before they hand you your smoothie, they're going to charge it in these charging stations and infuse it with this life force energy, and it's going to molecularly change the energy of that, and then that is going to go inside you, and it's going to heal you. So when you walk into the store, subconsciously or consciously, you're going to see love, heal, and inspire on the back wall. You probably don't notice it, but it's in every store. When you walk in, you're going to see Psalm 103, 1-5. Probably never noticed it, but it's in every store. Psalm 103, 1-5, I'm not a religious person at all, so I hope I'm not presenting myself as one. But Psalm 103, 1-5 is, in a nutshell, if you seek God with all your heart, he will crown your head with love. He will make you new again, right? That's just my experience. That's my truth. Mm-hmm. I sought God with all my heart, and he crowned my head with love, and he made me new, right? I went from a 109-pound junkie to a 172-pound, pretty physically fit, man.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm open to all of these things because meditation used to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more and more researched, and the mainstream is catching up. So I'm always open to these things. It also reminds me of this story. I don't know if you've heard of that one. There was this prison somewhere that was like full of problems, and so many people that were just the worst prisoners. And this new director came in,
mm-hmm.
and he would read out this prayer every day for hours. And he would look at the files of the prisoners, and he would just read out this, I think it's called a Ho'oponopono prayer.
Oh, nice. Okay. So like Eastern mysticism, like Buddhism?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it was basically a very simple prayer of 4 sentences. It's, I'm sorry. I love you.
Oh.
Please forgive me. Thank you.
I've used it. I used it in the darkest moment of my life.
And it turned the prison around. And
dude.
Nobody knew he was doing it, but the prisoners were turning around. And they weren't aware of it. They were just sitting in their cells, going about their day, but this director would sit in his office and read it out.
Yeah.
And so that happened.
Yeah.
What
you can't explain it. You
Yeah.
can't explain it. And by the way, I used that in the darkest moment of my life. I used that exact prayer. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who came up with it, but somebody suggested that I use it. Somebody, I think on Instagram, sent it to me. Mm-hmm. And I did it. And it's very, very powerful. You should put it in the show notes for people who are suffering.
Yeah.
And by the way, for anybody that's suffering, and I'm not saying this as a smartass, thank God. Like, thank God you're suffering. Because if you're suffering, you're actually going to change. If you're not suffering, you're not going to change.
I was going to touch on that too, because sometimes I also think the reason why I went and took action is because I have low pain tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I can't deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing a job I don't enjoy, or being single and lonely. Like I just feel that very heavily.
Yeah.
When I'm lonely, when I don't feel good enough, and I just want to get out of that state. And meanwhile,
So you take action.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
know people who
Most don't.
they can just be miserable.
Yeah.
And they can just live in this misery for a long time. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow. Like
It's almost like a purgatory, and it's like when you look around, it seems like 90% of people are living in some sort of anesthetized purgatory and using things like shopping or religion or sports or gossiping or slander or pornography or gambling or drugs, alcohol, or all of the above. I mean, when I go back to the Midwest to visit people back there, I see how people look. I can tell how they're eating, what they're putting into their bodies, and it's almost like they're asleep, and they want to stay asleep, and they say things like with passion and vigor, like, "Can you believe we won that game last night?" And I'm like, you didn't win. You're 52 years old. You didn't win any game. You can't walk to the fucking mailbox without gasping for air. What do you mean you won the game last night?
I love that too. That's so funny when they lose.
Yeah. And when they lose, I can't fucking believe we lost, man. I can't.
Like when they don't even say we. It's like they played so shit.
Oh,
then
you
they're
mean
not proud of it.
Then they dissociate themselves.
Yes,
Yeah, those are fair weather fans. Fair weather fans, I think they call them. But people identify with sports and religion, and then they distract themselves with gossiping, with slander, with or with the more insidious, the gambling, the pornography, the drugs, and the alcohol. But they all do that stuff to stay asleep. And then there are people that take action, right? I mean, you said you don't like being in pain or you feel things too much, so you take action, right? That's why you're in great shape. If you were a little bit more tolerant to pain, you might be a fat fucking blob, right? I'm the same way. I mean, I could be in much better shape if I had more discipline, but the truth is, like, I want to eat chips at night and I want to have some mochi or some ice cream every now and then. And I'm not going to go on a fucking carnivore diet. And like, I'm just like, it ain't worth it for me. Mm-hmm. Those chips are cooked in beef tallow. So there's no seed oils. So for everyone that's freaking the fuck out right now about seed oils and they're going to kill you and industrial and this and that. Like, I get it. I stopped eating seed oils because Rick Rubin told me to stop eating seed oils. And I didn't question it. I don't know the science behind it. I see the Paul Saldino guy all the time on Instagram, and it's just like, seems like another manic. There's always something that, it was gluten and now it's seed oils and it was sugar before that. I don't question it. I don't really need to know the science behind it. I was reading Tim Ferriss's book. He was talking about the slow carb diet. I was in Hawaii. I thought, for shits and giggles, why not try it? Got a bunch of eggs at Costco, a bunch of cans of tuna, a bunch of lettuce, some olive oil, some lemons, some balsamic vinegar. And I think within about a week of just basically eating like chicken and eggs and tuna and drinking water, like my face literally like went, and all of a sudden I had this angled jawline and I had these high cheekbones, and my friend's wife was like, "What the fuck did you do?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You look like you had surgery." I'm like, I don't know. I've just been doing this weird slow carb diet, right? I don't need to know the science behind why I shouldn't be eating processed sugar, why I shouldn't be putting gluten into my body. Am I allergic to gluten? Waiters, like, they always say that now, like, you're allergic to gluten? I'm like, no, I'm just from LA. And they die laughing because, but there is a little bit of truth to that. Like, you could rob a bank with a loaf of bread in LA. People are so scared of gluten. I'm not scared of it. I just want to look good. So I know what I put in. I know abs are created in the kitchen, and I don't have abs, but I'm just saying, like, I know what I put into my body is much more important than what I do in the gym. What I do in the gym is awesome, and it's definitely making me stronger. But what I'm putting into my body is like, there is a direct correlation to what I'm going to look like and what I'm going to get out of my body.
Mm-hmm. Are there any traits that you developed during your time as an addict on Skid Row that still help you to this day?
Yeah, reading people. Reading people. Yeah. I had to learn. I was just talking to Tulsi Gabbard about this because we were talking, she was in combat. I was on Skid Row. She was being a hero. I was being a piece of shit. But we were talking about how, like, when you have seconds to figure a situation out, you know? A lot of times people are going to take your money and they're going to tell you to go fuck yourself and you just lost your $20. But sometimes they're going to hurt you. They're going to hit you. And then sometimes they're being initiated into a gang and they're going to fucking kill you. And you don't know when you're on the streets. You don't know what's going on down there. And those gangs are fucking scary. They're terrifying. Men will rape men in front of other men because it's funny, not because they're gay. They will literally grab a guy, throw him on the ground, and rape him in front of a bunch of other men, and they'll all laugh and clap their hands. It's fucking terrifying what goes on down there. People are being thrown out of windows. People are being stabbed to death. People are overdosing en masse with all the fentanyl and all that shit. But even back when I was down there 21, 22 years ago, people would just overdose and die right on the street. Nobody gave a fuck. You just step over them or go in their pockets and see if they had any money or see if they had any drugs. So yeah, I learned to read people when I was on the streets. It's been an incredible skill that I've brought into like the corporate world. That sounds so profound. I don't have a fucking office. We don't even have a corporate office, but I am, in a sense, I do own a lot of corporations. I have almost 400 employees, if not more. We will do, I think we'll do 20 million this year in sales. I think when we met, we were at like 13, 14 million in sales.
Amazing.
Yeah. And we're just getting started. So I brought into, I'm going to say it again so I can sound cool. I brought into the corporate world. No, but I brought into work. I brought into my day-to-day life. I brought into my day-to-day life a fearlessness that there's no college in the world can teach you. And most of the people that run my company are highly educated. And like one employee in particular who's amazing and I love her and she's super smart, she has to suffer through a lot of the Zoom meetings because she's our CFO, or she's CC'd on a lot of emails. Mm-hmm. And in both situations, she's just like, where do you get the courage to talk to people like that? Like, that guy's a billionaire and like you basically told him to go fuck himself. And like,
your employee,
my employee said that about me. And I said, because after what I went through, after what I've been through, like I can do anything. I can overcome anything.
Are there any specific instances that you remember on the streets where it was crucial for you to read someone and you read them the right way and you dipped or you?
Yeah. I got somebody clotheslined me down on 8th and Hill. They just came up, a couple guys grabbed me, pulled me into a doorway, shut the door. They were kind of pretending like they were friendly at first. They were clearly intoxicated. And they had me. I mean, they were holding on to me. And they made me spit out my balloons. I was selling on their turf, and I didn't know that that wasn't allowed. I didn't even know I was on their turf. So they took all my stuff. For people that don't understand street life, you keep your heroin and your crack inside balloons in your mouth. So you wrap them in plastic, and then you wrap them again in foil, and then you wrap them in actual balloon material, and you tie that up. And the reason you do that is if the cops are coming, or you get pulled over, or if the cops are coming after you, you just swallow it. That's all. And
it won't get digested.
It won't get digested. And also when you're in jail, then you have, you shit it out, and then you have a tool, you have a bartering tool that you can use for protection, for food, for cigarettes, for whatever. So it's like, it's not a bad thing if you swallow it. But I did not swallow it. I was selling on the corner, and these guys grabbed me, they clotheslined me, they pulled me into a doorway and made me spit out my balloons, and then had a knife up to my throat. And they kept saying, come on upstairs, come on upstairs. We want to show you something. And I know what that means. They're going to take me upstairs. They're going to put me in a bathtub, and they're going to chop me up. And part of an initiation into a gang, part of a ritual, part of a debt, whatever the fuck was going on. But that's very common. And I knew it. And in the midst of me trying my best to break away from these guys that had me. This little, I'm going to guess Salvadorian just because of the neighborhood we were in. The door opened up and this little Salvadorian woman came in and she started yelling at the guys. And at that point I like pulled in and I turned, like, you know, when you're in football and you kind of like turn like that, you spin to get away from people that are trying to tackle you. And I got out and I ran and I ran and I ran and I kept running until I couldn't hear the footsteps behind me anymore. And then I just burst into tears crying because that was it. I knew that was it. There were a few times where like I knew for sure I had narrowly escaped dying, and shit like that never leaves you.
Yeah.
Never leaves you.
Is there a pivotal point, one moment where you said, this is it, I'm fully surrendering to recovery?
No. I mean, yes and no. There were many. That was one of them. Yeah. Then, you know, getting woken up by the defibrillators because I had overdosed and my heart had stopped. And there was a bunch of them, because every time that happens, you're like, oh my God, I'm never getting high again. I'm never going to fucking, you know, do that again. And then slowly that turns into, well, I'm never going to shoot again. And then, you know, I'm never going to smoke it again. And then, well, I mean, I can have some, you know, some beers, or I can smoke a little weed, or I can snort a little this, or I can, you know, and then eventually you're right back on the needle. So yeah, yes and no. There was lots of pivotal moments. It wasn't until there was an accumulation of moments that became fucking unbearable. Just literally fucking unbearable. I mean, if I light a lighter right now and I put it to your knee, you might be able to handle it for a few seconds. But, you know, after a certain period of time, your skin's going to start to crackle and pop, and you're going to yank your... I reached that point physically. I just could not go on anymore. I was so fucking shot out and dehydrated. You've seen the cover of my book. I was 109 pounds. I had sores all over my face. I was rotting from the inside out. My fucking teeth were falling out of my head. And that was when I cried out for help. That's when I surrendered.
It sounds similar to, it reminds me of these low-level addictions that I think everyday people have too, where they're like, oh, you know what, I'll just have one more, you know, it's fine. And then you're like, no, never again. I'm never going to drink again, or I'm never going to have that much pizza late at night again.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know, just a slice. It's almost like it's like a lower level of that. How do you get over that? Can you?
Yeah.
Do you have to?
You don't have to. I could have continued on and died.
In your case, you had to. But
yeah, or died.
Actually, you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't. I could have gone on. A lot of my friends died. I mean, I think it boils down to somebody waking up and somebody taking sovereignty over themselves and really realizing, like, this is their life. Like, you got given a life, I got given a life. Like, we can help each other, we can be friends or whatever, but like, it's your life. Like, you're going to do whatever you want to do. If I'm your boss and I fire you and you spend the next 20 years pissed off at me because I was your boss and I fired you, and you're blaming your hardships on me, you're missing your whole fucking life. Right?
Yeah.
I know that everything going on in my life is my fault. And let me use an extreme example, because I was watching this documentary the other night, or I was trying to watch a documentary the other night about, they were basically character assassinating Kevin Spacey. And I'm not defending Kevin Spacey. I don't know Kevin Spacey. I don't know the people that were in the documentary, but the beginning of the documentary was like these men, and they were claiming that, you know, he pushed their erection on them and then it made them uncomfortable and whatever. And I just thought to myself, like, that's what you're doing on a documentary? You're complaining. Like, I've had a lot of dudes push their erection on me and I pushed them away. I had women when I was newly sober and I was working. I had one woman in particular. I was working and getting paid a lot of money multiple times, asked me to stay the night. I don't want to go into the circumstances because if someone listening to this would know who the person was, but she asked me to stay the night for work. And then in the middle of the night came in my room. She had her little nightie on. She started like humping my leg and whatever. Now, listen, I'm a man. I'm strong. At the end of the day, I could have thrown her across the fucking room. So if I were a woman in that circumstance and it was a man doing the same thing that was happening to me, that's totally fucking different. And that's horrible. But I am a man. I'm not a woman. And I just like rolled over, right? And then I got fired. And then I got a severance check, a big one. And then about 2 weeks later, I got invited to come back and work. And I went back to work because I wanted the money. And then the exact same thing happened, a little bit worse this time. It was like some kissing and some licking and some pumping and whatever. I'm being pretty graphic, but there's a reason. I just pushed her away and I got fired. This happened 3 times for sure. It might have happened 4 times. But every like 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I would get the severance check and then I would get invited to come back and work. And I went back and I worked every time. Now, am I a victim? Should I go do a documentary about it? This person happens to be pretty famous. Should I go to the tabloids? No, man. I put myself in that position. I was fucking broke. I needed work. I put myself in a situation where somebody made those advances at me as a man. And again, if I was a girl doing your podcast right now and I was 100 pounds and some 200-pound man did the exact same thing, that's a completely different fucking story. When someone has the physical strength over you, you know, that's a criminal and a terrifying situation. I wasn't terrified in the slightest. I was grossed out. I just like pushed her off me. And one time I pretended like I was sleeping. 2 times I pushed her off. Maybe it was 3 times. But I see these dudes doing these documentaries talking about when they were in fucking theater school with this guy 25, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And he pushed his erection on me and I felt it and I didn't like it and I pushed him away and it was very traumatizing. Just like, dude, that's what you're talking about 35 years later? I'm not justifying what Kevin Spacey did. He was being a fucking creep, right? Mm-hmm. He was being a creep with a man who clearly was able to push the man away. Like if you're in a situation like that, you move on. When I was in a situation like that, I went back for more. Why? Because I wanted money, right? Because I was broke. And why was I broke? Was it her fault that I was broke? It was my fault that I was broke.
Yeah, it depends on how you talk about it later, right? Because
right.
You had a reason.
But I guess my point, Leon, is like, I never told that. Well, that's not true. I told my buddy Carrie. I remember calling my buddy Carrie, be like, "Yeah, so and so tried to bone me last night." We were like, you know, like laughing about it. And again, switch genders around and have it be a man doing it to him. And that's not fucking funny. That's disgusting. But I was a man, and it was a woman, and I, you know, had the physical ability, and we laughed about it. It grossed me out. I felt a little bit dirty. Going back, like taking the job over and over again after it had happened, I felt a little like a prostitute.
You could put that in your course.
What's that? Put that in my self-help course. No, but I'm saying like
infinite money glitch.
Yeah, I never bothered telling that story because Leon, I'm not a victim. Even those dudes that grabbed me and put the knife to my throat and they were going to kill me, I can't hate those guys. Did those guys make me addicted to drugs? Did those guys put me on the street? I was selling drugs on their turf. I was in their world. I didn't know, right? But I wasn't a fucking victim. So I think taking sovereignty over oneself and realizing that again and again and again, I put myself in situations where bad shit happened. My boss, when I was probably about your age, a little bit older than you, first real job I ever got, my boss lied to the owner of my company, and the owner of my company fucking fired me in front of her. And I cried. It really hurt my feelings because the way that they portrayed it wasn't the way that it went down. And I wanted to yell and I wanted to scream and I wanted to stand up for myself, and I didn't. And that's on me. And again, I wasn't a victim. That woman that ran the company, was it her fault that I was broke and I desperately needed a job? No, that was my fault. I was broke at 35 years old and I needed a job, right? Now, the owner of the company today is a good friend of mine. I fucking love the guy because he changed my life. Even though he screamed at me, even though he told me I was a fucking whatever, called me names, prior to that, when I was doing my job, before I was wrongly accused of doing something stupid, he made me write down a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year plan. He made me. Well, I mean, he said, strongly suggested it, and I did it. And that changed my life forever. And I don't think I'd be sitting here today. So, you know,
what was the plan?
The plan was I eventually wanted to open up my own recovery place.
And you did?
I did. I think on the 3 year plan, I wanted to write a book or do a record or both. I did the book. I never went back to music. And the 5 year plan was I wanted a girlfriend and I wanted to own a home. And I do. You've been there. Yeah, you've been there.
I'm like,
yeah. What I wrote down, I was so small compared to what eventually ended up happening. But had I stayed in victimhood, had I stayed a victim and not taken sovereignty over myself, I never could have succeeded. So I don't think you need a course for self-help. If you're hurting, like we talked about earlier, and you're in pain, you have the ability to change, because people don't change out of inspiration. They change out of desperation.
Unfortunately, right?
Unfortunately.
I wish it was.
Wouldn't it be great?
It would be so great. Could I just do the things that I know that are good for me?
Yeah.
I think it's just a human condition.
All the things that are bad for me are so easy to do, and many of them fun. And all the things that are good for me are so hard to do and challenging, and yet they bring all the rewards, and I don't want to do them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to make that dentist appointment, right? I don't want to go get my blood drawn and meet with my doctor. I don't want to save that money and invest that money and take those risks. Like, all those things oh God, it's so difficult. It's so much easier just to sit around and talk shit about people. You look at that fucking idiot. Look at this idiot. And did you hear about Biden? And you hear Brad Pitt got a facelift, and Kim Kardashian's taking Ozempic. And most people spend most of their lives engaging in that behavior. There are two types of people. The people that talk shit and people that do shit. You do shit. I do shit. I hope whoever is listening to this, if you're one of those people that just talk shit, I would strongly encourage you to stop talking shit, have a look inward, take sovereignty over yourself, stop being a victim, and start to do shit.
Sounds like you believe a growth mindset is developed. It's something that you can develop at any point because you did it. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something either you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, the older I get, the more I wonder. I've kind of always been growth minded.
Yeah.
And
part of that's genetics.
Yeah, part of it.
Part of that's like ethnicity. Sorry, part of that's ethnicity and genetics.
So, did you have that inside of you, like a sliver of that growth mindset in the beginning?
No, I was a victim. I was the ultimate example of learned helplessness. I was the ultimate example of learned helplessness. Welfare, food stamps, drug addiction, convicted felon, high school dropout. Woe is me. The government fucking sucks. This country fucking sucks. My parents fucking suck. Like, everything was everybody else's fault. Learned helplessness. No, it wasn't until I got off the drugs and the drink. I wasn't much of a drinker, but mostly drugs. It wasn't until I got in so much fucking pain that I took inventory of myself, and I realized that I was completely full of shit. Just completely full of shit. I was a liar. I was a cheater. I was a manipulator. I was not somebody that I would want to hang out with, and yet I was me. I was just living my life without a moral compass, taking advantage of everything and everyone, and blaming and pointing the finger at everything and everyone. I was the ultimate example of that. So no, the growth mindset came through pain, through frustration, through desperation. Listen, there was a little bit of inspiration. If you actually purchase a Tony Robbins program and you listen to it and you actually follow through and you do the whole thing, which nobody does. You know that, right? Tony Robbins himself tells you 92% of the people that purchase these programs will never finish them.
It's true.
It's fucking gnarly.
It is.
Think about that.
It is. And whose fault is it, right?
It ain't his.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. So
I'm a big Tony fanboy, by the way.
I love Tony. I've done the fire walk. I've gone to the seminars, Waking the Giant Within or whatever. I've read the books. I've listened. I'm so fucking old and always wanted a better life, but it wasn't until I got into so much pain that I realized, like, it doesn't fucking matter what my dad did or didn't do. It doesn't matter what my mom did or didn't do. It doesn't matter, what kind of, that I'm from Toledo. I remember for many years, I used to think like, well, I'm from Toledo. I'm a fucking loser. When I first moved to California, I used to tell people I was from Detroit. Detroit's like 30 miles north, just because Detroit sounded cool. Toledo, it's like the fucking armpit of America. I mean, it's a shithole. And I was embarrassed that I was from there. You know what? It doesn't matter. Andy Warhol was from some rural town in I think in Indiana or Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania. He was from some rural town. Andy Warhol was like some skinny, pale, frail, gay when it was like bad. Now you're gay, you're awesome. Like everybody loves you. But like he was, like Oprah was born black in a time when being born black was a real mark against you. Mm-hmm. Andy Warhol was born and was gay in a time when being gay was not, it was against the law actually. Mm-hmm. And yet he made it to New York City and he became one of the most prolific artists in the history of the fucking world. We are limitless. We can do anything. I can do anything. I know that. I am just barely scratching the surface now of what I can and what I will do. I'm going to build $1 billion brand. You're going to watch me do it.
You told me last time.
Yeah, I am going to build $1 billion brand. I am in the process now of building $1 billion brand. I just got my high school diploma, so I can't brag anymore and say I'm a high school dropout. I finally went back to Ohio, and the school that kicked me out.
That's not going to help you sell the course, by the way.
I know.
Can you undo it again?
I think if maybe we add in like maybe some secret dick pills that will make your dick magically grow. If we throw those in, then that will be sort of like.
I think that's where a high school degree is helpful.
Yeah, high school degree dick pills. This is how we're going to sell the course. You're probably right. I could probably make a bunch of money being a life coach and selling a bunch of courses.
You're the perfect avatar.
I couldn't face myself because here's the deal. Like, I don't have the right to tell anybody how to live their life. I don't know anything. And the pain that I went through, I can't bottle that pain up and then inject it in somebody's calf or somebody's arm.
Exactly.
To make them as motivated. Like, man, I get up in the morning. This happened the other day. I get up in the morning and my girlfriend comes downstairs, who you've met. My girlfriend comes downstairs. And I literally looked up at her and I was like, oh, fuck, I got to work harder. I got to make sure I can provide more. I need to do more. I need to get a bigger house. I need to provide more comfort for her. I need to, not out loud, obviously, but subconsciously. Like, I just saw her. She wakes up and she looks so fucking beautiful. And normally I'm cool with that. But 2 days ago, she woke up in the morning. She looked so fucking beautiful. It actually scared me. I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Fear of loss.
Yeah, fear of loss. Fear of not being good enough. I take that and I put it in my belly as coal in my furnace and I burn that shit and I fucking go and I go and I go. And I can't give that insecurity to someone else.
I think that's the key ingredient, and you either have it or maybe you can develop it. I don't know, but do you want to? I don't know.
I wouldn't want anyone. I wouldn't want my worst enemies to go through the shit that I went through. But the shit that I went through gave me all the shit that I have. It made all my dreams come true. Well, not all my dreams. The
record, you still got to do the record.
I do. I do. I need you to hold me accountable on that.
Yes.
I can
online now. So
yeah.
By when?
I'm 54. I'll be 55 in October. I'm gonna need until I'm 57.
Cool.
Yeah, I need until I'm 57.
We'll do a follow up.
Yeah, I'm gonna write and record a full album. I'm gonna do it with Dwayne Betts and Blake Mills and Alex Orbison, maybe Mark Ford, maybe a few other people. I'm going to do a record. I'm going to do a record for me. I'm not doing a record for anybody else.
That's how you wrote your book too, right?
Yeah.
The advice that Neil Strauss gave you is just write for yourself.
Yeah.
It's great advice in general when you're building a business. And
I built Sunlife for me.
Exactly.
That's what I see. Malibu Beach Yoga for me. I built
That's what I see with Sunlife, because you are like the real life Willy Wonka. Have you ever thought about that? Have you seen the new Willy Wonka?
You and my buddy Gino made me watch that movie, and I was so mad at him for the first 15 minutes. I literally looked at my girlfriend. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with Gino? Why would he tell me to watch this? This is some stupid kid show. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I will tell you, the little girl, that was the hook. I didn't turn it off because there was something about the little girl, the little black girl. Mm-hmm. I identified with her pain and her suffering. I did not realize until towards the end of the movie why he wanted me to watch the movie. And it's so weird that you're bringing this up. I wouldn't share about this. I haven't shared about this. I rolled on my side at the end because I didn't want my girlfriend to see me crying, but I was crying so hard because, I lost my mom 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And when his mom reappears at the end and she smiles at him and she waves at him, I rolled over on my side and I'm crying, and I don't want my girlfriend to see me crying. And I've got so much shit going on. I've got these crazy people wanting me to fly to Milan and meet with them about this business deal. Then I got these other people that want me to go to Qatar, and I have these other people that want me to go to Saudi Arabia. And then there was all this shit going on. But I watched a movie. I cried. I got it. Yes, I accept that, and thank you for the compliment. I cried. My girlfriend didn't see me crying. I thought about it a couple more times over the next couple of days. I cried again. I miss my mom. I am the modern day Willy Wonka. The one dude is just relentless, and he's just like, look, are we going to do this business deal or not? You need to get on a plane. And I'm like, fuck it. I call Centurion Services. I book a flight on Emirates. I'd never done that before. I wanted to experience what it's like to have a shower and your own I've flown private a lot, but I've never on my own. So I booked the flight. I fly to Milan. I'm pissed off because I don't want to be there, and the guy was pretty aggressive. And this is about a week. It's not even a week later. It's probably 5 or 6 days after I'd seen the movie. So now I'm in Milan, and I WhatsApp the guy, and he's like, "Oh, okay, wonderful. We'll get together tomorrow for dinner." And I'm like, "I'm fucking here. Like, why would you have me fly all the way across the world? You've been hounding me for 9 months to come to this business meeting. I finally come to fucking Milan to do this business meeting, and we'll get together tomorrow? No, how about we fucking get together right now?" I was really mad. So I call him up. I'm like, "Hey man, what's the deal?" He's like, "Well, you know how it is with royalty. Like, he has his entourage and his wife is shopping, and we can only do dinner tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay, fine, whatever." I'm staying at the Hyatt. I fucking walk out. I'm miserable and I'm hungry. Walk out the front door. There's a cologne store next door. I love cologne. That was kind of cool. And the woman in the cologne store was super hot, so that was fun. I ended up buying some cologne. But now, like, what am I going to fucking do? I'm not into fashion. I don't care about, fucking Milan. Like, this is stupid. But I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go walk around. So I go past the cologne store and I keep walking. Leon, I take another 20 steps and I shit you not, I look up and I'm like, what the fuck? Am I dreaming right now? And I look down and then I look at some kids run over and they start twisting their foot around 3 times. And I call my girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, do you remember in the movie when they were at the place where they sold the chocolate? She goes, yeah. I'm like, I think I'm here. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, hang on. And I do a fucking video and I send it to her. She goes, yeah, that's the place. I'm like, wait, I'm losing my shit right now. I literally Googled it. I'm like, where did they film Willy Wonka, the new Willy Wonka? And that exact place, they use CGI and, and AI and whatever to recreate that exact fucking spot in the movie where all of the scenes take place. I was standing there.
No way. So you saw the movie. It inspired you to go, you know what? Fuck it. Let's have this meeting, fly out, and you find the place.
I'm at the place. In a million years, if I saw it in a movie, I wouldn't have believed it. Angry businessman, storms out of his hotel, buys some cologne and walks up and he's standing in the same spot where Willy Wonka was standing in the fucking movie that he saw 6 days earlier. I wouldn't have believed it.
That's so funny. And now I'm bringing it up too.
Yeah, and you're bringing it up. Yeah, I got choked up. I couldn't believe it. I was like, thank you, God. I thought about my mom. I got a little bit more choked up. And then I took a right, and then I went around the corner, and there's this massive church, and it's beautiful, beautiful church in Milan. And then there's this one part of the wall of the church where there's these old carvings of, I believe it's the Stations of the Cross, and it's of Jesus. And there's one spot in particular where people go and they rub it for good luck. And so many people have rubbed it that it's shiny. Everything else is dark and green and whatever, but this one part where you touch Jesus's feet, and I'm touching his feet, I'm like putting it to my heart, and I'm just like, is this real? Like, is this really happening? But Leon, I think all of that stuff is happening all of the time, but we're asleep. We're shoving our mouths with junk food. We're gossiping about the Kardashians and who's Leo dating. And did you hear Anthony Kiedis' girlfriend is 19? What a scumbag. And, we're putting these celebrities on pedestals. Trump is a fucking monster. Biden is a fucking buffoon. Like, we're so fragmented. We're looking at all of this shit, all of this external bullshit. And then the insidious stuff, the drugs, the alcohol, the gambling, the pornography. Right? So we don't take action. And if we don't take action, what if I wouldn't have booked the trip to Milan? I never would have saw that. I would have seen the movie. Thank you, Gino, for making me watch the movie. I would have seen the movie, but the message of the movie and then having the hand of God push me into the exact spot, and then I go and touch the foot of Jesus, God, I would have missed all that if I didn't take action. But I don't watch pornography. I don't spend my time gossiping and slandering others. I don't fucking care what's on TMZ. I don't care if Tom Brady or was it Tom Brady they were talking about? Oh no, Brad Pitt. I don't care if Brad Pitt got a facelift. Like, everyone was gossiping about that for weeks and weeks and weeks. Who fucking cares? I'm 54 years old. My goddamn eyebrows are drooping down. It bothers me. I look like a fucking old man. You know what? In 4 or 5 more years or whatever, I might go spend 15, 20 grand and have them do that so I don't look like a fucking old man anymore.
You just always look surprised.
Who cares? But who cares? I don't fucking care what Tom Brady did with his face. I don't care who Kim Kardashian is fucking. I don't care. Like, I care about me and my life and the people that I love that are around me, and what can I do to become the highest version of myself so I can serve that. That to me is the ultimate prayer.
That's beautiful. I love the way your perspective on spirituality, the no religion, just like connection to God. And I love the way you run your business.
Thank
you. I don't think you spend a lot of time behind a computer.
No.
That's, to me, is so, like, I remember seeing the Richard Branson documentary, and I feel like some guys, they're so good at business, they don't even have a computer.
Yeah.
They don't even have one. So how do you
I have a computer because I have to look at Rolexes and Patek Philippe's and, you know, the little boy in me still likes shiny things.
Yes.
But the business stuff is like, being in Cannes in the south of France and being at Cafe Vesuvio and taking the first bite of that white truffle Blanco pizza and just going, fuck, I need to make something like this, but in my world, like in the world of smoothies and acai bowls. That's how I conduct business.
This is where the Willy Wonka stuff comes in, because when you showed me around at Sunlife, like, oh, this is the maca powder which is the
heirloom maca, yes,
from Peru. You travel to Peru.
Yes.
This is literally what Willy Wonka does. This is the cacao beans from
the jungles of Ecuador. Yes.
This is the bee pollen and
yes,
the bees.
The matcha from Kagoshima, Japan, where the samurai ruled. Yeah. It's all
so epic.
It's the energy. It's the energy of all those things. And I'm not doing that for you. I really like you, and your video made me somewhat famous, so thank you.
Awesome.
But I want you to enjoy, you know, Sun Life, but I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for me, and because I'm doing it for me, I'm making it the best of the best of the best of the best. The problem is with most businesses, most people start businesses so they can make money. Mm-hmm. That's the motivation behind just about 99% of everybody that starts a business, is so they can make money. The reason we flip the fuck out when we go into Tom Colicchio or Michael Mina or a Danny Meyer or that rare, I found a pizza place in Milan that fucking mind blowing. I asked the concierge, I'm like, I don't want some touristy bullshit. I want to go for pizza where you go. And he's like, he's asking somebody else, and then like some girl comes over and she goes, she goes, here, you go here. This is local. This is good.
Yeah.
And so I take an Uber over there. I get out. I walk into this restaurant. And when I walk in, like everybody like looks over, like for sure, I'm probably one of maybe 10 tourists that have ever been inside this restaurant. This was not in a popular area. This was where people in Milan go to eat, right?
Yeah.
And I sat down, and the menu's in Italian. There is no English version, right? So I'm kind of struggling or whatever. And I'm telling the waiter, who understands a little bit of English, I point to the pasta. I wanted like the rigatoni arrabbiata, and I wanted a cheese pizza. And so I'm like, yeah, I want the pasta and I want the pizza. And he's like, no. And he like points at the pizza, and then he like points at like some clam, like some whatever, or like some chicken thing or some beef. And I'm like, no. Pasta, pizza. And he realizes what I'm saying, and he goes, no. And I'm like, no. Pasta, pizza. And he goes, no. And all of a sudden, some guy gets up and he's like, sir, in perfect English. He goes, sir. He's not being mean, but you're in an Italian restaurant. It would be like if we came to America and we were in a fancy restaurant and you tried to order a cheeseburger and a steak. He's like, you don't order pizza and pasta together. I'm like, oh, fuck. And the waiter's like mad. And I'm like, can you please explain to him that I'm clearly from the United States and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm obsessed with pasta and I'm obsessed with pizza. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I would love it if I could please have both. And so he tells him in Italian, and the waiter like goes off and, comes back and like puts them down on my table. Leon, I fucking buried that bowl of rigatoni, and I ate every last bit of that pizza with the exception of a little bit of the crust. And when the waiter saw that, he came over with this big smile on his face and was like talking in Italian. I don't know what the fuck he was saying. Almost like proud of me for consuming both dishes. And it's about authenticity. If you go into a restaurant in America and you're like, I want the carpaccio and the filet mignon and the T-bone steak, number one, the waiter's going to be like, cool, this is going to be a big fucking tip. The manager's going to be like, awesome, get that fucking check count up there. The owner of the general manager is going to be like, yeah, we're going to have a great night tonight. We're making lots of money. And the owner of the restaurant typically is going to be like, fuck yeah, we're crushing. Our profit margins just went up. But if you go into a place that is so maniacally driven by authenticity, you taste it. Those weird random sandwich shops. There's one in Santa Monica on Lincoln. They have one location. They will never open a second location. They could have 100 across the country. They don't fucking care. They make
purity.
It pure, authentic. People line up. There's an hour wait. That's what's always excited me. Mm-hmm. If you go to Zingerman's Deli in Ann Arbor, it's the greatest fucking deli in America, and you get a Reuben sandwich there and a bag of those chips that they make in Brooklyn and one of those Dr. Bronner's Celery sodas, and you have this meal. It's like a fucking religious experience, and that's what I wanted to do with smoothies and with acai bowls.
And you have. I'll tell you, as a customer, as a consumer, just walking into the store, Sam Ovens was guest last week, and he talked to me about that too. I don't think he talked about it in the episode, but he's also an entrepreneur, and people can just feel when something is pure. How you feel when you're making the thing,
yeah,
it comes through. And it seems like that's how you run your business, right? You're not in meetings, you're not hustling, mindset, grindset.
I don't have an office. We don't have an office.
And so it sounds like the activities for you is finding the best products, finding these chips that are made in beef tallow, finding
the ketone IQs,
the new ingredients,
yes,
and having meetings, and just carrying the vision of your company, and then also probably putting the right people in place that can run the thing and you can trust them, and that's where your ability to read people also comes in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a talent for finding people that are much smarter than me, that are much better at running a business than me. They all happen to be women, except for Brad, and I just leave them alone. They make mistakes, but like the business runs way better than I do. So I don't run the business. We don't have a corporate office. We have that many employees, and we have a lot of corporate employees as well, but we don't have a corporate office. I give them full autonomy. They want to work at home, they work at home. They want to go out into the field, work in the field. Some of them need to be in the stores more than others. And some of them, like Jamie, the CFO, she never really needs to be in a store. She goes because she loves the brand, and it's good for her to, for people to see her. But my goal, I had Riviera Recovery and I was making a bunch of money.
That was a recovery center.
Yeah.
That you started right after you recovered.
Not right after.
Maybe took a while.
2007, I had 5 years clean and sober. That was in 2007.
Yeah. That took off, but you hated it.
I hated it.
Why?
Yeah. Because
didn't want to be around.
There was there was a lot of people that didn't want help. And their
That's
parents are paying all this money, or their spouse is paying all this money, or their kids are paying all this money, and
to recover.
And they don't want to recover, and they don't want to get out of bed, and they don't want to do what they're told, and they want to go sneak stuff on the side and whatever. And like,
it's just draining for you.
It felt fucking weird. Like people throwing plates of food at me, and then like, fuck you, I'm paying $10,000 a month to be here. And like, I hated it.
Yeah.
Now, if they wanted help, the Ricks and the Sarahs and there was a lot of people that wanted help. I fucking love that. I gave them everything I had, and many of those people are my best friends today, which is wildly inappropriate. I should have had better boundaries in order to run a business like that. I didn't. I don't fucking care. It wasn't for me. But I was making more money than I had ever made or seen in my life. I started it on a shoestring and a prayer, and the next thing I know, I'm making, 40, 50, 60 grand a month. I mean, to go from homeless to, 40, 50, 60 grand a month to most of your listeners, probably like, oh, big fucking deal. So-and-so makes, 20 million a month selling blah, blah, blah on Amazon. And yeah. Yeah. I was motivated by money, but I really wanted to help people because I'm desperate for attention and approval, and I want to feel like I'm a part of society. But I have this fantasy of this mythical place where everything would be the best of the best of the best.
Willy Wonka.
It was where I wanted to go. I wanted to go get the medjool dates and the cacao beans that were raw and from Ecuador. And
what's the pollen that you have? It's from
the lotus pollen.
Lotus pollen.
Oh, so we have bee pollen too. We have the most amazing bee pollen. I think it's from Spain, but it's not practical and it's not very profitable. But who fucking cares? Who cares? Like, it makes money. I've made money 3 years in a row now. We lost money for 10 years. We've made money for 3 years. That was never the goal. That was never the objective. The goal was to be the best of the best of the best. But really, the goal is also it's just where I want to go. I go there every day.
Yeah.
I go there every day.
And so you mentioned 20 million in revenue. So what you're doing this year? That's great.
20 million this year in revenue, but we're opening 7 new locations. So we'll go from 15 locations to 22, 23 locations by next year. We'll probably doing closer to 30, 35 million, probably 35 million in revenue. Yeah.
There's a burning question I have that I think is inappropriate to ask.
Ask.
Which is, how much do you pay yourself? How much money do you have? But I'm not going to ask that question. So,
what I pay myself is simple. I pay myself $200,000 a year. It's a modest salary, all things considered.
Oh, great. You answered it. I didn't even ask for it. That's great.
A person that's running a company that's doing $20 million a year in revenue would typically pay themselves between $400,000 and $600,000 a year. I pay myself $200,000, to be exact. I pay myself, I think, $205,000 a year. And then at the end of the year, there's profits, but I split that with my partners. And those profits have been in the hundreds of thousands in the last 3 years, which is wonderful because the first 10 years we were losing hundreds of thousands. Yes. So,
and you're reinvesting because you have a big vision, $1 billion company.
Yeah. I did well. I did well with Bitcoin in particular. I met a guy.
You mentioned that last time. Yeah. So Bitcoin.
Angry Bob. Yeah. He's not angry, but people call him Angry Bob.
Interesting.
I fucking love Bob. Bob got me to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. I did well with that. I bought a condo. And 15 months later, because of the pandemic, somebody offered me $1 million more for it than I had paid for it. And I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this isn't is this even real? Like, I didn't even think I could get what I paid for it, let alone someone paying me $1 million more than I had paid for it 13, 14 months, 15 months earlier. So I took that money and I paid off my mortgage and I came here, and that house that you hung out in, I bought it. I wrote a check for it.
It's an oasis.
It's an oasis.
It's an oasis.
Yeah.
I love going in there and you have all these art pieces there, or things that mean something to you, or crystals. You love the crystals.
Yeah, crystals, cats, art,
girlfriend,
amazing girlfriend.
A pool that doesn't have any
chlorine
chemicals?
No, my pool my pool is clean with ozone and light. Infrared light. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it's really neat. And I'll tell you something that's almost never talked about that I wish more people would talk about is once you actually escape Maslow's hierarchy, once you get out from that triangle of, the bottom is desperation and survival and roof over your head and clean water, whatever, then you get up here and you get a little, once you get out of that, it's only after you get out of that you can self-actualize. And I don't mean like, oh, you become enlightened. We're all fucking enlightened in one way or another. And many of us are asleep and we forgot that we're enlightened. But you can't self-actualize until you get rid of that. If you're worried about the rent, if you're worried about the mortgage, if you're worried about the car payments, if you're worried about, oh my God, what if I get fired? You can't self-actualize. You can't truly become yourself. It's only after all of that is put to rest and definitively that you never have to work again, that all of your bills are paid and you're going to be comfortable for the rest of your life, then you can go, oh, fuck. Thank God. Who am I?
Why did I do all this?
What do I want?
It was not worth it.
what's in some people? What's important for me? How do I want to be remembered? What do I want to do now that's going to have a massive impact on somebody's life 20 years from now? It's only then that you get to start asking those questions. And it's fascinating. Jim Carrey said, I wish everybody could become rich and famous so they could realize that becoming rich and famous doesn't fucking mean anything, right? I get what he's saying, and I wish that too. I want everyone to become rich and famous, or at least rich, because fame can be pretty insidious. But when I say to people that the greatest moments of my life are sitting by myself with my cat underneath my magnolia tree with the sunlight filtering in through the leaves, with my headphones on, listening to Big Thief or Leonard Cohen, smelling the intoxicating aroma of the magnolia flowers, with the sunlight warming my skin and feeling the vibrations of my cat purring in my lap or on my chest. Those are the moments of perfection. That's as good as it gets. I've literally said to my cat multiple times, Krishna, this is as good as it gets. And it is so good. I couldn't feel that if I was worried about the rent and the mortgage or the job or my boss that might fire me, or am I going to, get that promotion, or, that's the rat race.
Yeah.
And I would strongly suggest to anybody who's young to start investing money now. Just take 20-30% of every paycheck and put it away every 2 weeks and don't touch it. Have somebody else do it for you, or have it automated, or both. So when you're old, like me, you're going to find something out that's fascinating. I don't feel old. Now, I got the Sean Penn forehead wrinkles going. There's a little bit of flab around my midsection. But the reality is, Leon, I feel exactly like you do.
Great.
There's some aches and pains when I get up in the mornings. I beat the shit out of myself, working out and stuff like that.
Kelly does. Kelly
Matthews does. But like being old, like it's just a number. Now, if I would have let myself go to shit and I was fat and I was bald and I had herniated discs and miserable because I don't take care of myself, I probably would feel old. But I don't feel old. I mean, you've trained with me. I don't feel old. I train harder now than I did 30 years ago. That's for sure.
You outperformed me, yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
But that gives me a lot of hope. And I believe the part that resonated most with the video, about the video that we made a couple of years ago, was that you spoke into this whole idea that in your 30s, you at rock bottom.
Yes.
Now, people in their 20s think they should already have their life figured out.
I know.
Crazy. They know what they should do in life.
So crazy.
And then when there's this goalpost that by 30, I remember when I was in my early 20s, I could only think as far as 30. And I thought at 30, life is over.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because that's when I have everything
life had passed me by. Yeah, I thought that too.
And so what you said, I mean, you're a living example of somebody who turned their life around. 30s, you're at rock bottom. As low as you can go.
Yeah.
You can only go up.
Yeah.
Right? And then 40s, recovering and started
Sun Life at 41. Wrote my book at 46. Finished my book at 46. Published it at 46, 47. I think I was 47. Started Malibu Beach Yoga at 45. I moved at 51. I left the state of California. I came to the state of Texas. Man, you're never too old. I mean,
You can live multiple lifetimes. Is what I see when I
for
when
sure.
when I look at someone like you, like, oh,
For
the
sure.
best is yet to come.
I am going to build this brand into $1 billion brand, but that's not going to be my legacy. I'm going to go when I'm 60, I'm going to go to Bali for 6 months to a year, and I'm going to learn how to teach yoga. I used to own a yoga studio, but I don't know how to teach yoga, and I'm okay at yoga, but I'm going to go when I'm 60 and I'm going to do like a 500-hour teacher training course, and I'm going to become a yoga teacher. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to open up an amazing yoga studio. I don't know where, but I'm going to teach yoga. I'm going to do a record. I'm going to write another book. I'm going to, before I leave this planet, I'm going to open up a rehab that's free. I'm going to open up a free hab for people that need it, that can't afford it. And I'm going to offer the best help that money can buy.
People that are actually going to do it.
People that are actually going to do it. People that are desperate and need help. I'm going to offer that help to people. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff. I might even be a dad someday. I don't know.
Where can people connect with you?
Instagram at Khalil Rafati, Sunlife Organics all over the country. Nashville opens up on the 20th. We're in the month of July right now, so Nashville opens up on the 20th. The first one. Second one opens up in January in Nashville at 12 South. Third one will open up in Q1 of 26 in Franklin. New York City's coming in May. Boulder, Colorado. Denver, Colorado. Del Mar, California is opening on August 8th. Downtown San Diego is opening up in April of 2025. My book, I Forgot to Die, it was available on Amazon. I think because of Melissa Wood Tepperberg's podcast, I think it sold out again. I think that's probably the 6th time my book is sold out on Amazon.
I Forgot to Die.
I Forgot to Die.
Check that out.
Yeah.
And also, who knows? Maybe we'll do a meetup with the community at some point.
I would love that. I would love that.
We'll go to Sunlife Organics, do a workout together.
I think this is what we need to do. Let's do that. And then when we hit store 20, let's do another video.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then when the record comes out, we'll do another one.
We got to do, yeah. Oh, shit. I forgot about that. Now I have butterflies in my stomach.
We'll plug it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother.